My name is Elena Ballard, and I'm 33 years old. I used to think love meant being there completely endlessly without question. I used to believe if you gave someone everything, they'd never ask for more, but I was wrong. Joseph and I had been together for 4 years. We moved in together after the first two. It felt natural, like an unspoken promise. Our first months were a dream, the kind you think will last forever. We cooked Sunday dinners together. I'd chop vegetables while he stirred the sauce, teasing me about my messy apron. We'd binge watch mystery shows, make up alternate endings, and fall asleep on the couch, tangled under the same blanket. He once told me, "You fill every room with warmth, Lena. I love that about you." Funny, isn't it? The same warmth he fell in love with became the fire he couldn't stand to sit beside. It started small, always does. Joseph began working late. Deadlines, he said. Then team drinks, then networking. I didn't question it at first. We were adults, busy people. But the laughter that used to echo through our apartment turned into silence filled only by the tapping of his phone. I'd sit across from him during dinner and watch his face light up at something unseen, a meme, a text, something not me. At first, I made excuses for him. He was stressed, overwhelmed. Everyone gets distant sometimes. So I did what I thought a good girlfriend should do. I tried harder. I planned surprise movie nights, left sweet notes in his laptop bag, suggested a weekend trip. He smiled politely, but his eyes were somewhere else. Maybe later, he'd say. But later never came. Then came the first lie, the kind that doesn't sound like one. One evening I asked, "Do you want to go out this weekend? Just us." He sighed, not looking up from his phone. "I'm tired, Lena. Can we not?" "Okay," I said softly. "When's good for you then?" He paused. "I don't know. Maybe next week." Next week turned into next month and next month into never. I started feeling like an intruder in my own home, like my presence was something he tolerated. He laughed more with his phone than with me. He slept facing the other side of the bed. When I reached for his hand, his fingers stayed still. I tried to talk to him. God knows I tried. One night I said quietly, "Joseph, are we okay?" He didn't look up. "Yeah, I'm just tired. That's all. Yeah." But that single word, "yeah," hit like a wall between us, solid, cold, final. The distance wasn't physical, it was spiritual. He was in the same room, but miles away. I found myself whispering conversations in my head, rehearsing ways to pull him back to me. Maybe we should see someone, a couples therapist. He chuckled softly, not kindly. "Elena, I don't need therapy. I just need..." His voice trailed off. I waited. "You just need what?" He exhaled, heavy, deliberate. "I need space. You're suffocating me." That word suffocating echoed through the apartment like a verdict. For a second, I couldn't breathe. It was as if the air itself rejected me. He looked away, maybe realizing how sharp his words sounded, maybe not. I nodded. Once. No tears, no shouting. Just that small motion of acceptance. Inside, everything cracked quietly, invisibly. He didn't notice. He'd already turned back to his phone. That night, I lay beside him in bed, staring at the ceiling fan spinning in slow, hypnotic circles. I replayed his words until they hollowed me out. "I need space. You're suffocating me." For years, I'd been the one holding him when he felt lost, the one reminding him to breathe. Now suddenly my existence was the reason he couldn't. I turned toward him. He was already asleep. His chest rose and fell in calm rhythm, breathing just fine. I realized something in that moment. If my love was the air that choked him, then I would take it away. Completely. I whispered into the darkness more to myself than to him. "Then I'll give you all the space you'll ever need." He didn't stir. He didn't hear me. But I meant it. And that's how my decision began, not out of anger, but quiet clarity. Love shouldn't make you feel like you're taking up too much room in your own story. That night, I fell asleep beside the man I loved, already planning my disappearance. When morning came, Joseph kissed my forehead before leaving for work, a casual, habitual gesture. He didn't notice the way my body stayed still beneath his lips. He didn't see how hollow my eyes had become. The moment the door closed, silence filled the apartment like fog, the kind that seeps into your lungs and makes it hard to breathe. I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, staring at the imprint his pillow had left. It hit me then. I had spent months trying to save something that had already stopped existing. For weeks, I'd tiptoed through my own home, afraid that every word or touch might push him further away. I made myself smaller, quieter, hoping he'd notice the absence of my laughter and miss it, but he never did. He said he needed space, So that morning I decided to give it to him not metaphorically, literally. I opened the closet. The smell of his cologne hit me sharp familiar. My hands trembled as I took out my suitcase. I didn't take much: my clothes, my laptop, a few framed photos of my late mother, my favorite scarf. Every fold of fabric felt like I was erasing a memory. When I reached the dresser, I stopped. There was a small note he'd once written me back when we were still us. "You make ordinary days feel like magic." I held it for a second, then slipped it into the trash. By 2 a.m., my suitcase was zipped shut. The apartment was spotless, as if I'd never lived there. On the kitchen counter, I left a note. 5 simple sentences. "You wanted space. Here it is. Don't contact me. I hope you can breathe now. E." I didn't cry when I wrote it. The tears had already been shed drip by drip in every argument I'd swallowed and every silence I'd endured. The night was still cold and strangely peaceful. When I stepped outside, I felt something I hadn't felt in months' air that belonged only to me. The city was asleep. Even the moon looked like it was holding its breath. I loaded the suitcase into my car and sat behind the wheel. My hands rested on the steering wheel, shaking slightly. I looked at the apartment building, the window we used to decorate with fairy lights, the balcony where he once told me he loved me. None of it looked like home anymore. I whispered into the emptiness, "You said you couldn't breathe. Now you can." Then I turned the key and the car came alive. I drove through the sleeping streets until the city lights faded into the dark stretch of highway. Every mile that passed was a heartbeat slowing down the panic, fading, the noise quieting. By dawn, I reached my best friend Maya's apartment. She opened the door, half asleep in her robe. "Elena, what the hell? It's 5 a.m. "I left him," I said simply. Her eyes widened. "Left him? Like, you broke up?" "No," I said softly. "He asked for space. I gave him some." Maya blinked, waiting for me to laugh. When I didn't, her voice turned gentle. "Lena, that's not what he meant." Then he should have chosen better words. She stared at me for a moment, seeing something different in my face, calm, but edged with heartbreak. Finally, she sighed and stepped aside. "Get in. You look like a ghost." I dragged my suitcase in and sat on her couch. She brought me a blanket, coffee, and silence. It was the kindest thing anyone could have given me right then. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was walking on eggshells. No one was checking their phone while I spoke. No one was waiting for me to stop being too much. I watched the sunrise through Maya's window. It painted the room in gold, and for a fleeting moment, I felt something that scared me relief. I wasn't proud of leaving. I wasn't trying to punish him. I just finally understood that staying would have meant losing myself completely. That day, I turned off my phone. By evening, there were already dozens of missed calls, all from Joseph. I ignored them. I deleted the notifications one by one until my screen was empty. Then I whispered to myself, almost like a vow, he wanted space. I'll make sure he gets it. And for the first time in months, I slept through the night. No arguments, no fear, no waiting for someone to remember I existed. Just silence and peace. When I woke up the next morning, my phone was vibrating endlessly on the nightstand beside Maya's couch. 23 missed calls. Joseph's name flashing again and again like an alarm that wouldn't stop ringing. Maya walked in holding 2 mugs of coffee. "You're trending in one man's panic universe," she muttered, handing me a cup. I glanced at the screen, then placed it face down. "He'll stop eventually. Will he?" I shrugged. "He asked for space. I'm just honoring it." She stared at me for a moment, reading something deeper in my expression. Not anger, not bitterness, just a calm so cold it scared her. "Lena," she said softly, "you don't have to prove anything to him by disappearing. I'm not proving." I said, "I'm finishing." By noon, Joseph had sent a string of messages. "This isn't funny. Where are you?" "Please talk to me. Elena, answer your phone." Each text came faster than the last, the tone shifting from confusion to fear. I read them all once, then deleted the thread. By evening, I changed my number. The next day, he came to my office. My coworker, Sarah, came to my desk looking nervous. "There's a man at reception asking for you. Says it's urgent. He looks upset." My stomach tightened, but my voice stayed steady. "Tell him I'm not here. He said he's your boyfriend." "Not anymore," I cut in. "Please just tell him to leave." Minutes later, I heard raised voices from the front desk. Security was called. Through the glass doors, I caught a glimpse of Joseph's eyes, red hands, clenched, arguing with the guard. He looked like a stranger. When the elevator doors closed, I exhaled for the first time all day. That evening, the calls came from new numbers. A woman's voice, this time shaky but polite. "Elena, hi." "It's Patricia. I'm Joseph's mother." I froze. She sighed heavily through the phone. He told me you just left in the middle of the night. No explanation, nothing. He's devastated. I left a note, I said simply. A note she repeated, horrified. That's how you end a 4-year relationship. He said he needed space, I replied. I gave it to him. There was silence, then a sharp inhale. You're misunderstanding him. He didn't mean vanish. He meant... He should have said what he meant, I interrupted, her tone cracked desperation creeping in. He hasn't eaten. He barely sleeps. He keeps blaming himself. Please, Elena, just talk to him. Give him a chance to explain. I closed my eyes. Patricia. He already explained. I was the problem. So I fixed it. Then I hung up. 2 hours later, his sister called. You can't just walk out on someone like that. He's breaking down. I laughed quietly, not cruelly, just tiredly. He broke us long before I walked out. Maya listened to the voicemails piling up on speaker later that night, Patricia's voice trembling. Joseph's dad, stern. His best friend accusing me of cruelty. When the last one ended, Maya whispered, They're trying to make you feel guilty. I know, I said. Does it work? I looked at my reflection in her window. Not yet. Days passed. The calls didn't stop. Different numbers, different voices, all carrying the same plea. Come back, talk to him, explain. I blocked each one. By day 5, I'd stopped jumping every time my phone buzzed. Silence was slowly replacing chaos, and in that silence, something strange grew. Not happiness, not freedom, but clarity. Joseph hadn't wanted me gone. He'd wanted me smaller. He wanted me to orbit his world quietly, waiting for him to decide when I could exist. And for years I'd accepted that, until I didn't. That weekend I went to the storage unit I'd rented and unpacked the last of my boxes. Maya found me sitting on the floor, surrounded by half-unwrapped frames. You're really not going back, are you? She asked. I shook my head. There's nothing to go back to. She hesitated. You know, if you called him once, he'd drop everything. I smiled faintly. That's exactly why I won't. That night, I received one final message from an unknown number. Elena, it's Joseph. I don't know what to say. I didn't mean to lose you. I just needed a break, not an ending. Please, just tell me you're okay. I typed a reply, stared at the blinking cursor for a long minute, then deleted it. Because I was okay, just not in the way he wanted me to be. I locked my phone, put it face down, and turned off the lamp. The darkness felt honest for once. No pretending, no half versions of love. I whispered to the quiet. You said you needed space. Now you finally have some. And for the first time in years, I didn't dream about him. By the 10th day, the world had gone still. The chaos, the calls, the endless pleading. It all began to slow down like a storm, realizing it couldn't break through a locked door. But that's when he showed up. Maya called from the window. He's here again. I froze mid-step, a mug of tea in my hand. Here, she nodded, peeking through the curtain. Downstairs. He's just sitting in his car. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Part of me wanted to look just once to see his face, to feel something. But I stayed still, staring at the steam rising from my mug until it faded. He's been there for an hour, Maya whispered. Should I call someone? No, I said quietly. He'll leave when he realizes I'm not coming down. 3 hours later, he did. That night, I listened to the voicemail he left. I don't even know why. Maybe curiosity, maybe weakness. His voice was broken, soft, unsteady. Elena, please. I didn't mean it like that. I just needed some time to breathe, that's all. You didn't have to disappear. Can we just talk, please? I could hear him exhale on the other end, long, exhausted, guilty. I can't sleep. I keep expecting you to walk in and tell me I overreacted. Just tell me you're okay. I don't even care if you hate me. Just say something. I pressed delete, because if I listened to it twice, I knew I'd start doubting myself. The next message came 2 days later. I hate you for this. You're cruel. You don't get to ghost someone and act like you're the victim. That one made me laugh bitterly, because once upon a time I was the one accused of being too emotional, too dramatic. Now he was the one unraveling. Nights became quieter, but my thoughts didn't. I'd sit by Maya's window staring at the city lights and wondering when love had turned into a battlefield of silences and half-meant words. There's a strange peace that comes when you finally accept that something is over. It doesn't come with joy, it comes with stillness. I started writing again. Not texts, not messages, just words. Pages of thoughts that no one would ever read. He said I was suffocating him, I wrote one night. But what if the truth was simpler? Maybe he just couldn't handle someone who saw him too clearly. Each page I filled felt like reclaiming a piece of myself I'd lost trying to understand him. A week later, Maya found me burning something on her balcony. "Lena," she asked, stepping out into the cold, "what are you doing?" I held up the envelope, his letters. Joseph had written me dozens over the years, little notes he'd leave in my bag or under my pillow. I used to keep them in a box labeled Us. Now they were nothing but smoke rising into the night. Maya watched quietly as the flames danced. "Does it help?" I nodded slowly. "It hurts less when you turn love into ash." That same night, I dreamed of him for the first time since leaving. We were in our old kitchen. He was laughing again, the way he used to when I burned the garlic and pretended it was smoky flavor. Then the scene twisted, his face blurred. The air thickened. I tried to speak, but no sound came out. He whispered, "You're too much, Lena." And suddenly, I couldn't breathe. I woke up gasping, drenched in sweat, my own heartbeat pounding like a drum inside my ears. The irony wasn't lost on me. He'd claimed I was the one suffocating him, yet I was the one who'd forgotten how to breathe. The next morning, I went for a walk alone. The city was alive with noise and motion, strangers laughing, buses, groaning life, moving forward without me. I sat on a bench and let the wind hit my face, cool and clean. For months, I'd been desperate to keep Joseph close, thinking, if I loved him hard enough, he'd remember why he loved me. But love doesn't work like that. You can't force someone to stay in a story they've stopped believing in. A memory surfaced, his voice soft and sincere years ago. "I love how you fill the room." Now those same words tasted bitter, because later he'd called it suffocating. What changed? Maybe nothing. Maybe I did. That night, I lit a single candle and whispered into the flame, "You said you needed air, so breathe, Joseph." Then I blew it out, leaving the room in darkness. And in that darkness, I felt something shift, not grief, not guilt, but release. I was finally learning the difference between losing someone and freeing yourself from them. 3 months passed, long enough for silence to stop sounding like punishment and start feeling like peace. I moved into a small studio apartment downtown, just one window, one plant, and walls that didn't echo someone else's sighs. It wasn't beautiful, it wasn't big, but it was mine. The first night I slept there, I realized how different real space felt compared to the kind Joseph asked for. His space meant distance without accountability, freedom without consequence. Mine meant room to breathe, room to exist without apology. I started rebuilding quietly. I joined a pottery class. I went to the gym again, not to distract myself, but because I liked the feeling of strength returning to my body. I reconnected with my sister, whom I'd avoided for months because every conversation used to circle back to Joseph. I even began smiling again, small, uncertain smiles that felt like trying on a forgotten outfit. Maya noticed it first. "You're lighter," she said one morning as we shared breakfast on her balcony. I laughed. Or maybe I just stopped carrying something heavy. She smiled knowingly, like a man who didn't know how to love you. I sipped my coffee and didn't answer. The silence between us said enough. But healing isn't a straight line. Some nights I'd still reach for my phone before remembering there was no one to text. Sometimes I'd wake from dreams where he was still there, smiling, joking, brushing my hair behind my ear, and for a few seconds I'd feel that old ache raw and familiar. But then morning would come, and the sunlight would touch my face, reminding me, he's gone, and I'm still here, still. That realization used to hurt. Now it feels like victory. A few weeks later, Maya mentioned him casually over dinner. "Did you hear Joseph seeing someone new? I think one of his coworkers." My fork froze midair. I didn't say anything. Didn't ask for details. For a moment, jealousy flickered, not because I wanted him back, but because part of me wondered how easily he'd replaced me. But the feeling passed. Because I remembered the nights I begged for conversation and got silence. The days I begged for closeness and got distance. I remembered how small I had become just to fit inside his comfort. Let him find someone new. Maybe he'll finally learn that space isn't what keeps love alive, presence does. A month later, I ran into one of our mutual friends at a cafe. He hesitated before sitting down. "Joseph's not doing great," he said quietly. I raised an eyebrow. "Oh, he's been going to therapy. Says he didn't realize what he was asking for until it was gone." I stirred my coffee slowly. Most people don't. He looked at me, searching for bitterness or softness. But there was neither, just peace. Before he left, he said, "You really hurt him, you know." I smiled faintly. I didn't hurt him. I just stopped saving him. Later that night, I sat by my window, watching the city lights flicker. I thought about how much energy I'd wasted trying to decode half-hearted love, how often I'd mistaken silence for patience, avoidance for kindness. So I wrote again the final entry in my journal. When someone asks for space, what they often mean is, I want to leave, but I'm too afraid to say goodbye. So you give them what they ask for, and in that emptiness, they finally hear the sound of their own choice. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight spilling across my floor. For the first time in years, I wasn't waking up for someone. No one needed me to shrink. No one needed me to be less. I made coffee, opened the window, let the city air fill the room, and when I exhaled, I realized I was breathing freely again. He had his space, and I had mine. But the difference was, mine was peace. His was regret. 6 months had passed since I walked out of that apartment. Half a year since I left behind the version of myself who begged for crumbs and called it love. If you'd told me then that I'd feel peace again, I would have laughed. But healing doesn't arrive all at once. It slips in quietly through small moments that stop hurting. The morning it happened, I was watering the little plant on my windowsill, a stubborn peace lily that refused to bloom. My phone buzzed on the counter, an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me look. Hi, Lena, it's Joseph. I didn't mean to lose you. I thought space would fix us, not erase us. I just wanted to breathe. I didn't know that meant losing you. I stood there, the phone glowing in my hand, the message suspended in time. My heart didn't race. My throat didn't tighten. I just felt still, the kind of stillness that comes when you've already lived through the worst part of goodbye. I didn't reply, because some answers don't need to be written. They're lived. That evening I went for a walk through the park. The air was warm, carrying the smell of rain and blooming jasmine. Couples passed by holding hands, laughing softly. For the first time, I didn't envy them. I didn't ache for what I'd lost, because I understood something I hadn't before. Love shouldn't feel like suffocation. It should feel like breathing together, not gasping alone. I sat on a bench and closed my eyes, feeling the wind brush my face. Somewhere in that breeze, I imagined Joseph breathing easier too, maybe for the first time, honestly. And that was enough. A few weeks later, I was cleaning my new apartment when I found the note I'd written that night I left. Folded and creased, forgotten at the bottom of a box. You wanted space. Here it is. Don't contact me. I hope you can breathe now. I smiled, not out of pride, but out of recognition. That woman who wrote those words wasn't cruel. She was desperate to survive, and she did. People sometimes ask me if I regret it, if I think I overreacted, if maybe I should have stayed and talked it through. I always say the same thing. Love only works when both people are trying to stay. When one starts planning their escape, the other has two choices: chase them or let them go. I chose to let go. Because sometimes love isn't about holding on tighter. It's about knowing when someone's hand has already gone limp in yours. I never answered Joseph's message, but a few months later, I heard through mutual friends that he'd moved to another city for work. Good for him, I thought. Maybe he finally found the air he was looking for. As for me, I finally learned how to breathe again. Not because someone gave me permission, but because I stopped asking for it. I still think of him sometimes not with anger, not with longing, just acknowledgement. He was part of a chapter that taught me how words can wound, how silence can suffocate, and how freedom can heal. I look around my little apartment now, the chipped mug. I love the books piled on the floor, the soft hum of the city through the window, and I smile. It's not grand, it's not perfect, but it's mine. And for the first time in years, so am I. So if anyone ever tells you they need space, don't chase them. Don't beg. Don't shrink yourself trying to fit back into their comfort. Let them go. Let them have their space, the real kind. The kind that teaches them what it feels like when you stop being their air. Because one day when you finally learn to breathe on your own,